Good evening. That's getting annoying to me. It's actually annoying me. I guess I'll turn that off and work with the limited light for the moment. Well, I can turn on the washroom light. I pretty much sit in a dark house. But no, after being up so late last night and then I ended up sleeping in. I mean, it was good. I was able to get I was able to get some decent sleep. Thankfully, I ended up sleeping till like noon today. Just battling this roller coaster. But was up for maybe 3-4 hours before I was able to run, and because I had ran out of food last night. I don't really go to the market too often right now. Just kind of ate what I had, and I was like, okay, I gotta go get some food today. Even though I'm heading back up tomorrow, I was like, well, I'll get something to make for tonight. And all that, and while out, I was like, I was checking my account, make sure I had enough, because I didn't have a whole lot on there. And I was looking at it, and I was like, oh, thank you, baby Jesus. After being here for so long, I finally have hot water. Like, I'm excited about that. Because, like, while being here, I was, in all honesty, I was sacrificing what money I had to go basically buy somebody lunch and to go spend time with somebody who really didn't give a shit about me. And I had to learn the hard way about getting used. But I'm thankful that I was able to get the water heater all set up. Because realistically, I mean, this is what it runs off of. The barbecue tank. It shows you I was using even every last bit of my money because I care about somebody. I'm willing to go without so that someone else could feel better. You know, even if I felt like shit. Or even if, you know, like in their case, we were having our differences and all that, and I was hoping in time there would be some form of communication so that we'd get past shit. I'm already at the point it's not going to happen. I'm just trying to focus on dealing on the healing aspect again and just re-go through that process and just say fuck it. You know, because, yeah, it's been an emotional roller coaster. But I'm excited now. I've got hot water. I don't have to boil water on the fucking stove just so I can have a fucking sink bath in my own fucking home. Or at this house. I mean, it's still my home, but I don't really live here. I live here, but I don't live here. I don't know if that makes sense, because the home's up for sale. And I'm only here to make sure certain people aren't messing with my home. So I only get to take a break for a couple days at most, if anything. So I'm not sure when exactly I'm going to head up. You know, I'm planning on going up there to at least spend a couple days here this week, and it's probably by the weekend. I don't know. We'll see. I'll definitely be talking with the market guy and stuff like that again. He definitely watches up here, because he's watching my neighbors too build their shit and all this stuff. So he's definitely got his nose up here real well, which I appreciate. But no, I was able to go get some propane so I can have some fucking hot water and finally have a hot shower, and so I can like shave. I'm excited. Okay, these little things are actually awesome. You know, the only hot water I want to be in is the kind of hot water that goes in your bathtub or a hot tub, just like anybody else. But excuse me. So while I was like, you know, I'll swing over to the market, because I had to go up to the other marketplace so that I could exchange an old propane tank to get a new one real quick. and then came over here to this market so I could get dinner. Fixins for tacos. I normally get the 93% stuff, but this is literally the last pound of beef he had there at the market. So I was like, fucking A. I'm having tacos tonight. And I'm excited about it. I had preheated my skillet. Sorry, it sizzled so loudly. And then the secret ingredient for the tacos. Brown haram. No, I'm joking. No. This is... I like to... smells so good. I like to add a little extra paprika or whatever to my tacos. It's just going to be a simple tortilla, hamburger, some cheese, and some lettuce, and going into my chubby belly and whatnot. What's funny is I'm just chubby. I'm very self-conscious though. I'm getting excited about this because I'm going to have a good dinner. And I've got hot water. I think that's probably what kind of turned my day around. I mean, yeah, I got hot water. I actually sat and looked at one of those little countertop dishwashers. I saw somebody make a post on those things. And I was like, you know, I only have like 4 dishes, four bowls, and like 4 cups, you know, just the basic set, that camp set that I got. And I'm looking at one of those, like, you know, it's would literally wash every dish I have, basically, and still be room to throw in, you know, my skillet, because I only have 2 skillets, this big one and a little one, and then 2 sauce pots, so just a little soup sauce pot thing. And then the baking pan I would have to wash by hand. That's just no biggie. But I was looking at that. I was like, you know, I could make do until I move, because I don't expect this place to sell until like January at the earliest. I really don't, and so I don't want to find myself completely moving back in again. I just want to get through the next couple months. Hopefully get my brains back so they're not so scrambled and foggy from just all this stress. It's just a lot of fucking stress between what I've been dealing with my home, trying to get it sold, doing repairs, worrying about where I'm going to live, then personal shit. It was just never ending, and there's just more to it. So today, you know, getting the hot water, or getting it to where I have some hot water finally again. I'm actually excited about it and happy. I gotta run the water through the fucking tub, and then the shower head, of course, a little bit, because, you know, I haven't had any water run through it for a little while. I keep suddenly getting all these, like, spam phone calls, and then I get some that are verified from, like, I think there's one from, like, Indiana, one from, like, I didn't even know that there was a place called Newport News. I didn't know there was a city called that in Virginia, of all things. I lived there as a kid in Richmond, but I was like, when we moved there, I was maybe 2 going on 3. And then when we moved from there, it was between the ages of, like, I want to say, like, it was shortly after my 4th birthday. I want to say it was that same year. It was that summer. I feel like it was that summer. But I didn't know there was a place called that. And then there's been a couple places, and it's like, yeah, no. And then yeah. Also noticed too, like, that smells good. I had to add this so I can cook into the burger, into the beef. But I struggle talking on phone. Like with my realtor, the only reason why it's gotten easier and easier to talk to her is like with the market guy and others and all. It took each interaction of me talking to them to kind of warm up to them and be able to do so without thought, without necessary worry. I can't say thought. Even then, with some people like that I've known since childhood, if I haven't talked to them in a long time, it's still just as difficult for me to pick up a phone and talk to them, or even do like even a video chat or anything like that, as it would be for me when it comes to a total stranger. So I mean, that's why 90% of the time, or 99% of the time, however you want to put it, I communicate by text or email. And then Messenger. But even then, like, I have more than one profile. It's just my very, very original Facebook profile, that's long deleted. That was a long time ago. But my second one, and then like 2 others after that, I still have them because they've got photos and shit like that on there that I'd like to keep access to. I just have to go back, transfer them out, and then I can go through, delete what I don't need, keep what I want, and delete the whole thing. I just typically tend to just leave those alone and all that stuff, and I move to the next, because after a while, when I start getting just these reminders, and all the reminders are of this time last year, or this time, 2 years ago, or 8 years ago, and it's just bad shit, I don't want those reminders, and that's why I don't use my old profiles. You'll see 3 of them, possibly. I know I've got 1 or 2 of them at least deactivated. One of them stays active because it's attached to, some of the games I play on my phone, but I don't interact or talk to anybody on there, and I don't use it. So I mean, sort of moved on from some of those accounts, because yeah, and I've already got different people already blocked and all kinds of shit, because I just know I'm pretty done with a lot of the noise. I've got to get some normalcy back into my life. I gotta get my head back together. I've had my head and my emotions played with really badly for the last few years, and the last few months, to just kind of learn the things I have, to find that the whole thing wasn't what I thought it was. Like the entire time, it took my entire reality and fucked it up. So it's like I'm still piecing like things together, like trying to figure out, like, was this real or was that not real? And because I never really got that communication, or that, in essence, that closure, I'm having to kind of accept it and not force, but push myself to, to just keep going with the flow and keep going forward, and just kind of accept that there's things, just as many other times in things in our life, we just can't change it. There's nothing that can be done. And when it comes to people, they have to be willing to change their own bad habits, their own shitty traits, their own, the way they treat their relationships and prioritize their relationships, compared to friendships and all that shit. You know, down to the aspect that it's on them to decide, you know, is love of money really more important than the love of people? Because frankly, without people, you'd have no fucking money. I don't understand the love of material things in that sense. That in order to love somebody, they have to have money and all this material shit. If you have it, you have it. I mean, you either most likely earned it, or in the smaller, fewer cases, you're somebody who's born into a like extremely rich family and you're born into the wealth. You know, but most people in general have had to earn what they've got to some degree. I would have done more if I could have. And I can't put the whole I'm not putting the whole blame on one person or two people. I bear some of that responsibility, you know, because there's things I wish I had done differently and not allowed myself to allow someone else to dictate my life to that degree. Even knowing now that I'm on spectrum, I still wish I had enough understanding and knowing then that if I had not allowed somebody to basically talk me into disability before my NF and everything really took over my body like it did and started doing the damages that it did, I at least would have had some time to be able to build and work up into a lifestyle I really wanted. To a degree, I feel like my mom set me up for failure, and then just anybody behind that was just using me as like a stepping stone. Do I hate my mom? No. I've repeatedly stated I don't hate my mom. It's just a lot of bad things happen, and instead of, I don't know, instead of just passing on that pain, I don't want to. You know, I can still love people even after they hurt me. I might be, you know, I can be angry with people and all that stuff, but I'm not the type that's going to sit there and necessarily be holding these massive grudges and all that shit, and I just simply will stay away from people. That's what I do with my mom's side of the family, because I couldn't trust them. I didn't hate them. I didn't like how they treated me all those years because of who I was related to. And not one of them even thought about the fact that of what I had to go through with that same person. And I'm not talking about just necessarily my mom, but I just don't believe in taking, like, when someone hurts you, I don't believe in going out and doing it to someone else. It's just, And I don't believe in using people for any form of self-gain, whether it's monetary gain, emotional gain, anything. Like spiritual gain, anything. If you want spiritual gain, just start praying to God, start spending time out in nature, start going on walks, you know. That's something I actually enjoy doing. Since I've been here, in all honesty, that's one thing I've neglected doing when I really need to get out and do it. So, I mean, I need to get out more. Obviously, I've been neglecting it. That's depression right here. But no, I just don't believe I would rather go through the suffering and the pain of going through life trying to reach my dreams and getting there slower than go through my life off of other people's suffering, hard working, and pain or whatever, so that I can catapult myself into something. You know, looking back, even like where my doctor was concerned, even though I didn't understand it then, looking back, I definitely understand it now. I don't believe that you should be exploiting your fellow human being for your own personal gain. It's actually really just really fucked up, actually, when people do that shit. Are you serious? You're gonna get rid of that part. But it's just me, and you're thinking I'm gonna eat this whole head of lettuce by myself. No, I'm only taking like that slice to chop up, where the rest of this I get to throw it into back into the bag. But I had to learn a lot of hard lessons myself from my own stupidity, from other people's stupidity, from experiences I've had to go through with other people, from what I watched, experiences that I watched other people go through. It's like when my brother went to prison, it was like I went to prison too with him, the way I got treated by my family. And at the same time, I got to learn and see what those guys were going through at a young age. Trust me, being, 10, 11 years old, visiting your brother at a state hospital, or, even though he's the man that abused the shit out of you for 3 years, even as a child, you still love them enough to want to see them and see that they do better. Even as an adult, it's that way with my brother. It's just when he started treating my mom and dad like they were doing. Your family comes first. I get it. You've got to stick by your relationship, your all that stuff. That's your priority. Realistically, your personal relationship with your spouse, significant other, that's your priority. Yet, that's your family, and your parents are your family. They're not separate. It's one big family. So if you get married, their family is now one family with yours. Not two different families. Your family, as in yours and your spouse's family, has just doubled in size, and that to me is a good thing. That's just more to appreciate, more to enjoy. But if it's the us and them bullshit, you never get to enjoy that. Because at that point, when family's involved in all in that type of sense, that us and them bullshit of family, then what happens is one of those families is going to eventually start influencing that particular relative in the relationship, that person, whether it's you or your spouse, into doing really fucked up things in their relationship, because because your spouse or significant other wants that acceptance and approval again from their family. I watched my mom do that for fucking years, actually, growing up. She'd constantly try to get her siblings' approval, and things would start to be okay, and as soon as they got enough dirt, then they'd start talking shit, and then this big family feuding shit would go on again, and you'd watch my aunts and uncles and all that fight like they were fucking high school kids. And so it's like, that shit, no, I grew up watching it. It's like, I want no part of that. That's why I cut myself away from that stuff. And then if people are going to treat you that way, then they're really not, whether you're blood related or not, they're really not worth that time and energy to be putting your life energy into, if all they're going to do is treat you like shit. It's one thing when somebody loves you enough and they're willing to fight to correct things and make things right. It's another thing when they're willing to fight to throw you away. It's another thing when they're willing to fight to fuck you up and hurt you. When your family's doing that type of shit, then it's time to rethink what your family is. Family doesn't do that shit. They have their disputes. They'll have their arguments. They may even, they'll take time from each other and all that, but, we only have this one fucking life. And, my parents were not the best parents in the fucking world, but I give them the credit and realize that they did their best. I did see how much my mom and dad did sacrifice for my brother and I. Granted, my mom and them went bankrupt multiple times where my older brother is concerned. To help him while going through prison and all that shit. But they did deal with the bankruptcy when I ended up in the hospital after all the abuse where my brother was concerned came out. And see, ended up in getting help from one of those places at a really young age. Like, well, not really young age. It was shit, like 9, 10 years old. But I was in there for like 3, 4 months. And that's when all the abuses started coming out. That was around the time that it was shortly after my brother was, all the shit that my brother did with my, where my cousins and them were concerned, was coming out also. And when my doctor kept asking about it as a child, I wasn't sure what to do. I didn't want my brother to get in trouble. It was my brother first. But it took me understanding that what he did, I didn't have to it wasn't hating or disliking my brother for wanting to see him take accountability for what he did. And that's basically how it went. Yeah, learning new things after that bugged me. It still bugs me a bit, but to me that's in the state's fault, not so much him necessarily. In fact, my mom rubbed that shit in my face, that the way she did that I think that probably hurt more almost at this point, because the rest I thought I got over a lot of things, but then to learn new things, it's like almost re-experiencing it, and it's a new thing, because now it's like, wait a minute, this is totally different from what was happening at the time from my perspective as a 9, 10-year-old child, dealing with those types of abuses, that kind of family dynamic, all this shit. And yeah, let alone going through all that, having Asperger's while not even knowing I had Asperger's at the time, because the medical field at the time didn't even have the fucking knowledge for it. So it's like I had to draw from my surroundings, just like anybody else, but I, being raised like any other kid, I guess that came into the benefit of where it comes to my my verbal communication skills and stuff. It still sucks. I cuss more than I have probably any other intelligent word to say. But having those interactions that I did, being in public schools, around normal kids, all that stuff, I mean, it took some, it wasn't until after finding out I was on Spectrum, when we were looking back and ended up finding out that people who are on Spectrum tend to end up, becoming best friends with somebody who's ADD, ADHD. So a lot of times, somebody who's got Asperger's, high functioning, like myself, will end up finding, their best friend will usually end up being with ADD, ADHD, and it turns out was my best friend Jess. So it's like, looking back, okay, this whole thing makes sense. I remember staying the night over there, and we were camping outside, and a power thing blew up, and it lit the sky up blue. We didn't hear the explosion, we only saw it. It was just everything, the whole sky lit up blue from it. And of course, my imagination went wild, his imagination went wild. We were like 11, 12 at the time. And yeah, his mom kind of was like, I know Jess has ADD, or, I know my son has ADHD, but she was like, are you sure you don't? She's like, you got one hell of an imagination that you can just pull out of thin air at times. There's like, no, but I'm just repeating what we saw. Big blue light, I associated it to aliens, and so did he. We freaked out, and that's why we ran in the house. We were like 11 years old at the time. I want to say 11, 12, because his friendship and mine wouldn't have been solidified if it wasn't for a situation that happened and a person that was a part of my life at that time during outdoor school. That's when his and my friendship really solidified. And yeah, it's basically when he became my brother. So, but I have finished D-Tacos. I gotta grab me a plate. So that I can enjoy these tacos. lime. I'm going to cut it right here on the plate. Yes, I am excited on this part too. I forgot I still had the lime. Limes are great on tacos. Oh, right here. Just carefully shave it right, or slice it right here. Fuck yeah. Limes for the tacos. Sweet. Pull my seat up. Turn the temp down a little. Yep, no. Getting to enjoy something good for once. And like I said later, I'll get to, actually I want to do, I usually will put the cheese in first. Mainly because when you put the taco meat in, it'll melt. Otherwise, by the time you get to the cheese, it's all cooled off. It's sitting on the cold lettuce. Doesn't melt, which isn't bad. Obviously, it's not bad. I like tacos that way. Well, anyways, I hope you enjoyed this little rambling while I got to enjoy make some tacos, and tell you about my exciting day of being able to go get some hot water today. So, thank you for watching, and try and have a good night. Later.